Hi there, I'm the book lady. Oh, I'm really glad you joined me today. Now listen, it may not be cold where you are yet. It's not cold where I am, but we're going to talk about snow. And a lot of it's because I just liked these books, okay? So, if we're going to talk about snow, I think we should dress like it's going to snow, right? Woohoo! Put on my gloves. Now, I'm not going to put my other glove on. You know why? I can't turn the page. But I brought it, okay? Now, here's one book called Snow Comes to the Farm. I just loved this book. Maybe a lot of it was the pictures, the illustrations, but a lot of it was because even when I was a little girl, I could not wait for a giant snowstorm. I loved them. I wanted a big giant snowstorm to come. And you could almost smell it. You knew, oh, this is going to be it. Oh! So this reminded me of that. And I think you're going to like this book. This one is a Snowflake Bentley. Now let me tell you, this story is a true story. And it's about a man who, when he was a little boy, just was obsessed, loved snowflakes. And he wanted to prove that no two snowflakes are the same. And I thought a book was going to fall on me. Anyway, he wanted to prove that. The only way he could do it is by taking pictures of them. How do you take a picture of a snowflake? You're going to find out. Okay. You know what? I'm going to take my gloves off if you don't mind. But I got my other things on. Let's read Snow Comes to the Farm. It's by Nathaniel Tripp. Our farm is in a valley all by itself, so he doesn't have any neighbors. It's like living on an island surrounded by woods and sky. In the autumn, the wild geese fly overhead. Their song is both happy and sad. And I begin to wish for snow. There is one snow I'll always remember. Winter had come. The bare trees and gray hills said so. The frozen ground and ice on the pond said so. And the geese said so as the cold weather chased them south. Our cellar was filled with jars and baskets and bins of food. Our barn was filled with hay. Frost feathers began to grow on my bedroom window overnight. In the mornings, I looked out, hoping the snow had finally come. You know, you'd go to bed at night and you'd hope when you woke up, you'd look out the window and there'd be snow. There was no snow. Then one morning, the air, it just seemed different. The farm was very still, and the smoke from our chimney rose straight up into the gray sky. My big brother was excited. He said a snowstorm was coming and rushed outside to help Father with the chores. I was still too young to help much, but I loved to watch them working. On this morning, even the barnyard animals seemed to know a storm was near. They sniffed the air, stomped to their feet, and waited for the snow to begin. Even the animals could tell. Then, when the chores were done, my brother asked Father if he could take me up to the Owl Woods. We could make a fire in the shelter of the tall pines. we'd watch the storm come and maybe see the owl too. Father agreed, and Mother made us sandwiches while my little sister watched. The sky grew darker, and finally it was time to go. I followed my brother across the big empty meadow where green grass had turned brittle and brown. He lifted me over the stream. The air was so still, we could hear crows calling miles away. Caw, caw. And I could smell the pines long before we got to the owl woods. My brother carefully cleared a safe place for a fire. We gathered pine needles and dry twigs. Soon, smoke rose through the branches above us. We waited, warmed our hands, and ate the sandwiches. Where was the snow? Then, at last, we saw the first snowflakes. Just a little glitter floating in the air. I was disappointed, but my brother told me to keep waiting. The biggest storms begin with the smallest flakes. I waited, smelled pines, listened to the crows. Then the crows, oh, oh, became silent. The flakes were falling faster, and they were bigger now, too. We could hear them whisper as they brushed against the branches and see their shapes like little stars on our sleeves. You know, when the snow catches, you can look at it before it melts. We got down on our hands and knees to watch them land. One by one, the flakes filled the cups of fallen leaves. Then they spilled over and covered everything. The ground turned white. The hills faded away. This is when it gets exciting. All through the woods, mice and squirrels bustled about, leaving snowy footprints as they gathered food for the storm. We knew the owl was sleeping somewhere above us. And later, after dark, after we went home, the deer would come. Then waves of snow poured through the woods, more and more and more. Every twig wore a coat of white, and the trees looked like frost feathers. We saw the owl. Silent as the smoke from our fire, he glided through the trees and away into the storm. Oh, isn't he wonderful? He's huge. I felt the wind, like the storm's heavy breathing. Tree branches sagged lower, heavy with snow. The flakes hissed and stung our cheeks. Even the fire couldn't keep us warm anymore. Darkness was coming. My brother put the fire out. Darkness surrounded us. My brother took my hand in his and began to lead us back. Snow swirled across the path and quickly covered our tracks. Piles of snow slid down on us from the trees. Have you ever had that happen? But my brother's hand was warm and strong, and I could see the orange lights of our farmhouse. The storm blew harder as we crossed the meadow. The wind piled drifts behind fences, tugged our clothes, and moaned. Through the kitchen window, I saw my father and mother and sister by the stove. We were the last ones home. Long after evening chores were done, we sipped our hot cocoa and told everyone what we had seen, while our mittens dried by the cook stove and the snow brushed against the window panes. It's a good storm. The storm would huff and blow all night, but it began to whisper sleep to us. So we went upstairs and pulled the blankets over us. I promised my sister she could come with us next time. Outside, the snow kept falling like owl down. Do you know what that is? It's the really small little feathers on the owl. And that's it. Isn't that fun? A snowstorm. Oh, what would I give? Now, I wanted to point out a few things that you might not know. I just read right through them. Let's see. The geese, you know that when it's winter, let's say it's around Thanksgiving time, and technically that's really still autumn or fall. But the leaves are off the trees. The sky turns kind of gray, and it's sort of like that for many months. You just have this feeling, ooh, when will the first snow be? And to me, the first snow means a snow. You know, like it's all over the ground. Not a few flakes falling down. That doesn't count to me. And I think that's what this young man was waiting for. He wanted the big storm. And I thought it was interesting that even the farm animals could tell something's coming. And we're going to go into the barn and just wait. And they wanted to get their chores done and things done before the big snow came. Don't we do that? Before the big snow, guess what's really crowded? The grocery store. Everybody decides they need milk and bread. Never understood that. And so then he gets permission from his dad and his mom. And he and his older brother get to go out to the woods. I like this picture because it really shows you, here's their farm, and they're walking out to the woods that are around the farm. Yeah, and that's where they get to go and watch and wait for the storm. How fun is this? I love this. Okay, so they make a little fire. Do you see the fire? And they're just looking up. They're waiting. And sure enough, here comes some flakes. Now, they said the smaller flakes, that means bigger storm. I don't know if that's true, but someday we'll have to figure that out. And then I love this. They just stand there and watch. How fun is that? Yeah. Oh, just watching and hoping that it gets so high it's almost past your knees. How about that? And then there's the owl. I could be wrong, but I think that might be a snowy owl. I could be wrong. We have in my yard a screech owl. I hear it every night, screeching. Anyway, I loved this book. I hope you liked the book as much as I did. And I got this where? Where did I get this book? The library. And I told you, we're going to talk about winter and snow. This is Snowflake Bentley. This is a wonderful book. I learned something from this book. I really did. Jacqueline Briggs Martin wrote this book. In the days when farmers worked with ox and sled and cut the dark with lantern light, there lived a boy who loved snow more than anything else in the world. Willie Bentley's happiest days were snowstorm days. He watched snowflakes fall on his mittens, on the dried grass of Vermont farm fields. He lives in Vermont, and that's up in the northern part of the United States, and they get a lot of snow. On the dark metal handle on the barn door, this is where he'd see the snow start gathering. He said snow was as beautiful as butterflies or apple blossoms. He could net butterflies and show them to his older brother Charlie. He could pick apple blossoms and take them to his mother. But he could not share snowflakes because he could not save them. When his mother gave him an old microscope, he used it to look at flowers, raindrops, and blades of grass. Best of all, he used it to look at snow. While other children built forts and pelted snowballs at roosting crows, Willie was catching single snowflakes. Day after stormy day, he studied the icy crystals. Kind of unusual. Their intricate patterns were even more beautiful than he had imagined. See, when he looked through the microscope, he could really see what it looked like. Whew. He expected to find whole flakes that were the same, that were copies of each other. But he never did. Willie decided he must find a way to save snowflakes so others could see their wonderful designs. For 3 winters, he tried drawing snow crystals. They also melted before he could finish. Yeah, I don't know how you're going to save those. When he was 16, Willie read of a camera with its own microscope. Oh, if I could have that camera, I could photograph snowflakes. That was the one way he could capture the snowflakes to share with others, was through a picture of them. Willie's mother knew he would not be happy until he could share what he'd seen. Oh, fussing with snow is just foolishness, his father said. Still, he loved his son. And when Willie was 17, his parents spent their savings and bought the camera. This is a fancy camera. It was very expensive. And they bought the camera that had a microscope. It was taller than a newborn calf. That's tall. And cost as much as his father's herd of 10 cows. Willie was sure it was the best of all cameras. Even so, his first pictures were failures. No better than shadows. Yet, he would not quit. Mistake by mistake, snowflake by snowflake, Willie worked through every storm. Winter ended, the snow melted, and he had no good pictures. He waited for another season of snow. One day in the second winter, he tried a new experiment. And it worked. Willie had figured out how to photograph snowflakes. Now everyone can see the great beauty in a tiny crystal, he said. This is exciting. But in those days, no one cared. Neighbors laughed at the idea of photographing snow. Oh, snow in Vermont is as common as dirt, they said. We don't need pictures. Willie said the photographs would be his gift to the world. While other farmers sat by the fire or rode to town with horse and sleigh, Willie studied snowstorms. He stood at the shed door and held out a black tray to catch the snowflakes. Now, what a great idea is that? He had a black tray, and he held it out, and he just caught some of the snowflakes. See, and you could see them much better on the black. When he found only jumbled, broken crystals, he brushed the tray clean with a turkey feather and held it out again. He waited hours for just the right crystal, and he didn't even notice the cold. If the shed were warm, the snow would melt. If he breathed on the black tray, the snow would melt. If he twitched a muscle as he held the snow crystal on the long wooden pick, the snowflake would break. He had to work fast, or the snowflake would evaporate before he could slide it into place and take its picture. Some winters, he was able to make only a few dozen good pictures. That's like maybe 25. So some winters, he made hundreds. Willie so loved the beauty of nature, he took pictures all seasons. In the summer, his nieces and nephews rubbed coat hangers with the sticky pitch from spruce trees. See, they'd take their coat hanger and get the gooey stuff that comes out of pine trees on them. Then Willie could use them to pick up spider webs jeweled with water drops and take their pictures. On fall nights, he would gently tie a grasshopper to a flower so he could find it in the morning and photograph the dew-covered insect. The dew, early in the morning, even in the middle of summer when it's really hot, there's always a little bit of water on the grass and on things. That's the dew. Spelled it D-E-W. But his snow crystal pictures were always his favorites. He gave copies away or sold them for a few cents. He made special pictures as gifts for birthdays. He held evening slideshows on the lawns of his friends. Children and adults sat on the grass and watched while Willie projected his slides on a sheet hung over a clothesline. How fun. He wrote about snow and published his pictures in magazines. He gave speeches about snow to faraway scholars and neighborhood sky watchers. "You're doing great work," said a professor from Wisconsin. The little farmer came to be known as the world's expert on snow, the Snowflake Man. But he never grew rich. He spent every penny on his pictures. Willie said there were treasures in snow. "I can't afford to miss a single snowstorm. I never know when I'll find some wonderful prize." Other scientists raised money so Willie could gather his best photographs in a book. When he was 66 years old, Willie's book, His Gift to the World, was published. Still, he was not ready to quit. Less than a month after turning the first page of his book, Willie walked 6 miles home in a blizzard to make more pictures. Well, he became ill with pneumonia after that walk, and he died 2 weeks later. A monument was built for Willie in the center of town. The girls and boys who had been his neighbors grew up and told their sons and daughters the story of the man who loves snow. 40 years after Wilson Bentley's death, children in the village worked to set up a museum in honor of the farmer scientist, and his book has taken the delicate snow crystals that once blew over Vermont, past mountains, over the earth. Neighbors and strangers have come to know of the icy wonders that land on their own mittens, thanks to Snowflake Bentley. Isn't that nice? Here is a picture of him with his camera. And these are some of the pictures, see those photographs, of real live snowflakes. It's just amazing. What I want to get next is the book he published with all those snowflakes in it. This was a man who was a little boy, and he just lived in a little town, and he loved snow. Really, he loved all of nature. He loved spring, summer, and fall. But what was his favorite? Winter. And since he lived in Vermont, he saw a lot of snow. And he thought, you know, I can pick flowers and take them to my mother. But I can't bring in the beautiful snowflakes because they just melt. And he figured out a way to make it happen, that people could look at the beautiful snowflakes. And you know, no two snowflakes are the same. I'm sure someone has told you that. They're all different. And guess what? People, we're the same way. We're all different. Now, you might see somebody who looks like you, but we're all different. So these were my 2 snow books, and I hope you enjoyed them. Snowflake Bentley. And you think about it, it was very, very nice and generous of his parents to buy him that very special camera that he needed. And yes, if you're going to photograph snowflakes, you have to do it in the cold, or they become like raindrops. They melt. The other was Snow Comes to the Farm. Now, he didn't want to photograph snowflakes. He didn't even want to keep the snowflakes. He just loved watching and smelling and hearing the storm coming. You know, if I think it's going to snow and I can just tell, I will stay up late just to watch it happen. I think it's fun. Nowadays, we have radio and television and our phones all telling us what the weather's going to be. They didn't have that then, but they knew. They could tell. Oh, I'm so glad you came by today to read with me the books about snow. Now, you know I got these at the library. What's one of my favorite places to go hang out? Come on, what is it? What is it? The library. Have you been to the library? And yes, have you gotten your library card? I went to the library yesterday so that I could get some more books to read to all of you. And I got some good ones. And you know, the nice thing about getting a book at the library is you can read it 100 times. It's yours for a little while. And then what are you going to do? You're going to take it back. I'm going to see you next time. And until then, I'm the book lady. Bye-bye.